Cast on a Saturday, early.
Uh,
So, Eric, what have you been doing these last few weeks?
That's about all I got. How about you, Eric?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Linux OTC. Welcome to episode 53. I'm Bill.
I'm Eric.
I'm Majid.
I'm Leo.
Yay. Here we are again.
Yay! It's a full set, sort of.
Oh,
It
I
is.
give a genuine yay. This is fun time for me. I like being here with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I do kind of think you need to get out a bit more than Eric. But,
I don't
mean,
disagree. Listen, hey,
No,
stages of
Eric's
life and all.
no, Eric's inside as much as I'm inside, and I like it this way.
Oh,
so
Especially-
I realized I am a complete and utter weirdo. Now, this might not be a shock to everybody, but I am, because I found myself the other day on my relatively new relatively new Microsoft Surface Pro 7, blowing away the Windows install, putting Linux on it, and then deciding to put a Mac OS icon theme on it. And I thought, a psychologist would have a field day, actually, probably.
No, well, maybe, but they would just tell you, just buy a Mac, dude. Stop pretending.
You know what? I reckon that's what they probably would say as well.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say, yeah, but I'm not doing that.
It's
This is
your
well, I've been there.
subconscious
I've been there, done that. Sort of wore the T-shirt. Wasn't particularly happy with said T-shirt. Returned it. But then
You
I'm
forgot
having a
to
bit of
open-
a returner's remorse now.
Yeah, you have to open the terminal and then SSH into a bunch of Linux boxes, and then you can have everything. You can have all the things that you want to. It's
Yeah, that's what I'm
beautiful.
going to do next, actually. As soon as you mention that, because I've just
Dude.
put Ubuntu server on my Raspberry Pi 400.
This is what the developers do, man. This is what people that are in software development, people that are running DevOps, running containers and rerunning tests.
DevOps is the kind of thing that sounds really cool, doesn't it? It's like, yes, MI6 DevOps, or it sounds
Yeah.
like some kind of Call of Duty franchise thing, but really it just means a bunch of nerds on the computers, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah, it's
So
just
it's basically the gubbins in the it's what holds it all together. Like the developers that have their purview, and then the management has theirs, and sort of DevOps is in the middle, making sure that the servers are working and that things get deployed properly, and that
It feels like
Here's
that,
a question.
that nomenclature is born out of like the gamer culture, though. Of
Yeah.
the nerds,
Yeah.
It's-
development operations. Development
No,
operations
DevOps-
sounds like the
DevOps.
most CEO thing ever.
Yeah.
So
so
yeah.
it's top down.
But
Here's the
you
truth,
do
too.
You have to remember that like there's a lot of automation in it, and I think that's where that's where they wear the badge of honor, right? I can rebuild the entire everything in the entire enterprise in 30 minutes because I just pulled it down from GitHub and ran it. And and it was the 18th iteration of the 18th script that we wrote. There's interesting stuff.
When did programmers suddenly become software developers? Why did that nomenclature change?
It was so programmers are not DevOps though. It's that
Right.
So DevOps lives in the middle of the intersection between IT and software development because nobody wanted to do that job. So a bunch of IT guys or a bunch of software development guys learned the opposite, and now they sit in the middle helping deploy everything for the other people that refuse to learn.
Yeah, no, but I wasn't meaning specifically DevOps. I meant just software development.
Yeah.
It seems to be, why don't you just call programmers, because that's what you do, right?
Oh, that's old hat.
I guess they touch the infrastructure too much, right? Like because all the software they develop is used to implement the infrastructure itself. And then, no software developer is going to touch a switch yet. The configurations and the scripts and everything to bring those guys up. It still falls under the DevOps purview.
Yeah, basically DevOps means that there was a new set of skills required in the age of cloud, in the age of the way networking works now. There's so much complexity in the stack of what's underpinning whatever the developers are working on, that they can't possibly understand it all, right? It would be too much of a burden on them to not just focus on the programming aspect or the development aspect of it. And so there are a lot of developers who really don't even understand how hardware works, how networking works, how the nuts and bolts of things work. And that's where DevOps come in, because they're
Yeah.
sort of the people that underpin all of that. Like they're the ones that understand how the data centers work, how the software deployment process works. And like Leo said, being able to script things, automate things, like they perform a function that has always been performed. It's not like it didn't exist before. It's just been formalized into an actual job title. I mean, I did a lot of it just happenstance because I was the person that was most qualified to do it. No one ever called me DevOps, but that's what I did a lot of times.
See,
Also, Majid, I acknowledge that you were being mostly cheeky with a lot of those comments, and I'm over here like, no, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
so this is
No,
a job
no,
that's
no,
occupied by
no,
a single
no.
person or a single team.
oh,
in
got it.
some
Yeah, it should be a
cases.
team, but yeah, that poor one person doing the job. Sorry, dude.
My
You
point-
you should have another.
Wow.
Right. It fell on my shoulders, and it was really this type of situation that if I got hit by a bus, like that, the proverbial bus situation, like no one would have known what I did. And so I
Right.
think formalizing the position and making it into something more, supportable and repeatable was an imperative. Like they had
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah, part of that was the
Especially-
bus factor, right? Like
Yeah.
if you were hit by a bus and you truly were the only person, like the way that you set that stuff up is that no one should know that you're gone for like 2 weeks to a month because, they changed something and now the automation doesn't work anymore, like
Right.
yeah.
They changed the path somewhere or something like that where it wasn't picked up properly. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah. But to your point, nomenclature, terminology, that stuff changes all the time, not only with technology, but just in society in general. I mean, we've softened a lot of things or made things sound more impressive than they actually are,
Engineer.
Yeah.
Right.
Or like how programs became apps.
No,
Do you know,
no,
That's just what people call them.
that was a silly oversimplification and it was one syllable and that's why it happened.
You remember when you would get scoffed at when you called directories folders? This was a
Yeah.
thing. This was a thing. If you called a directory, because Linux calls it a directory, not a folder, and you called it a folder on a forum somewhere, someone would go away, Windows noob, or, you
Yeah.
would get called out for it. I'm not kidding. And now,
Yeah.
we've done the same thing where programs have become apps because everything's an app now, right? Any piece of software that is published is somehow an app instead of a program. And that goes back to programmers not being programmers anymore, I guess, potentially.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And on web apps rather than just websites.
Websites, yeah.
I think
Well, I
it's-
feel like even back in the early 90s, you can get away with calling it an application, and then we
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
shortened
true.
it up to
True.
the app because,
Yeah.
instead
I'm-
of telephone,
I'm-
it's a phone. It's a phone.
I mean, I'm pretty sure
Right.
that the reason that Apple started calling them all apps is because it sounds similar to Apple. In the same way that
Probably.
AI is
Oh.
Apple
Literally the
intelligence.
first time I've ever thought of that.
just kind of,
Except for
under the
Apple
radar.
And
Intelligence.
this is why I am paid the big bucks.
Majid, you
That's
are
right.
and
That's
farmers.
You
You are the
deserve
next
a
to
Mac.
you are the
That's-
steely-eyed rocket man, Majid.
That's it.
You
right
deserve
there.
a Mac, Majid. Go ahead, treat yourself.
It's funny you
Oh,
bring
don't
up
tell me
that
about
Mac.
treating
I've got
myself,
to
I'm close.
I've got to build a Windows machine, and I'm not looking forward to it. Not even a little bit.
Okay, so the Lenovo Snapdragon laptop that I've got, which I managed to get Ubuntu working on, it's a bit buggy. What a surprise, I suppose. The most oddest bug is that I have no idea how much battery is left because the battery indicator doesn't work. It just always says 0.
Huh.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. That's probably a GNOME thing, probably.
It's a
But-
kernel thing.
Yeah, it's a
it
kernel
doesn't
thing.
report correctly.
All of a
Yeah.
sudden,
Yeah.
one
Anywho.
day it'll work.
Yeah. So
Right.
anyway, so I've still kept the Windows install on that, and the I've got my phone linked with that link to Windows thing, which I didn't really want to, but it kind of came up, and I went, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. That's actually pretty quite cool, actually, because I found myself on a Google Meet call, right, and I'm looking at the camera, I'm thinking, why is it showing me this weird? Well, why isn't it showing me? And then I realized it was doing my phone camera. And I could use, what was it? What was it in Linux? Droid Cam. It was basically
Yeah.
like Droid Cam for functionality. And I thought to myself, you know what? maybe Windows isn't as crap as it used to be.
Easy.
It's not.
boy, are you
It's not what I would
easy.
prefer.
Yeah.
It's not.
Easy.
It's not what I would
Wow.
want to use. But for the first time in a long time, I thought, "Ooh, that's kind
Getting
of
a
neat."
little warm in here.
There is something to being delighted by a piece of software. I don't disagree. It is something that I tried to bring in as a product manager to when I was developing, helping to set the stage for development. I wanted my customers, the people using it, to be delighted with what they were using, right? It's hard to do, but when you can do it and people give you that feedback, it's like, oh. So
Eric
yes,
is amping you down, man.
Oh,
Yeah.
most of the
So-
time was boot heel, ground down, no doubt. But no, I agree with you, Majid. When there is something that stands out, you do all of a sudden think, well, maybe it's not so bad.
Yeah,
But
I
our
mean,
response to you shows you that
You gotta watch
no,
it.
no,
you
no.
will not be fooled.
Yeah, no.
That's
I mean,
only
it's,
them.
It was the. I mean, it's like the same time I used that screen copy on Ubuntu as well, and it was completely mirroring my phone, and I was just like, wow, this is brilliant, and I can even interact because I actually have a touchscreen laptop, and I can actually interact with the phone with touch and all that sort of stuff. So it was good. The only reason I say is because the idea of anything working on Windows is just like so out there because nothing ever
Welcome
works.
to Windows OTC.
Yeah, nothing ever works. It's always random
I'll tell you what works on
errors
Windows
and random shit.
that doesn't
you
work
know.
on Linux is TikTok Studio, and that's the whole reason I need a Windows machine. Because I tried to run TikTok Studio. We're going to start streaming to TikTok on 3FT.
Just use a phone, man.
Well,
I mean, it's all
You've
portrait
got-
video anyway.
I've got to have an instance of OBS Studio running to capture the Video Ninja, turn that into a virtual camera, and then pipe that off to the. That all sounds very convoluted, but pipe that off.
Yeah, it
to
does.
The,
I'm sure there's a better solution than that.
Well, I mean,
It's
when
got
you're
to be.
using open source software, because it's everybody's remote, right? So it's all got to be put together somehow. If there's an easier way to do it, then
Can a
And then-
phone join the Video Ninja?
yes, very well.
Can
actually.
you turn off like the phone's like instance itself? Like so in the list of all the people that are joined, you can turn that off and
Yeah, I can
do what Majid is saying. There's software to just pipe it straight to TikTok.
It is. See, this is my thing about workflow, right? That I've often thought that we find ourselves, because we're used to doing things in a particular way, whatever that way might be, that we try and replicate that rather than just trying something.
Well, I tried
new.
to do it in a KVM virtual machine, and the whole system shit the bed. So
This is hammer, screw kind
Oh
of thing,
god,
right?
you're
Like
pulling
not
it out of my head. I was the
not-
same exact thing I was thinking. Yep.
not every problem is a nail.
It is a nail. Yep. But when you've got that hammer that fixes things, even if it doesn't fix it perfectly,
It looks like a nail, baby. Pop, pop, pop.
hey, and
Yeah,
here's
look
the
at it.
secret of IT. It isn't always the correct way. And it's very rarely the correct way, I would
It's
say.
duct tape.
It's the way that works.
yeah,
Yeah. And I mean, it's the same reason why, for example, I feel people were so wedded to the traditional desktop paradigm of having a menu button and press the menu button and the menu comes up, because they were so used to finding their programs or apps in that way, and their files and their folders
way
and their
you say that.
directories. Yeah. But actually, if you use some kind of search thing, whether that's GNOME search, KRunner, or Albert, or something like that, or God forbid, Spotlight on a Mac,
Good.
yeah, you suddenly realize it's actually much quicker to get shit done. And you don't spend, but I remember seeing when
Don't use
Unity,
this.
Unity and GNOME first came, around, everybody
Ooh,
was
look
like,
at you, Bill.
yeah.
I think we've all.
Wow, I didn't
Midcast-
think anyone else used a thumb trackball.
Oh, God.
I thought I was the only one in the world.
Hey, look, me,
no,
me and
everybody
Majid
on
out here with
Midcast has
almost
got
the same
one.
mouse.
Yeah.
Cool.
Joe's
Almost
got
the same
a
one.
honeycomb trackball, and Majid's got one.
Yeah,
Or-
this is a fantastic radio again, as usual.
Right,
For
it's- we're
yeah.
holding up
for
our-
four
what
dudes
I was-
shows up to the camera.
The
Yeah.
point that Majid was making and what I tried to reinforce by holding up my mouse was the more times you have to reach for a mouse and you don't just keep your hands on the keyboard, the slower you are.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
See,
And
but
so
that's
because I
the
remember at the beginning, when GNOME 3, Shell, whatever, and then Unity, there were all these guides on the internet of how to make it go back to normal, and there was all these and then after a
Yeah.
while, I remember just thinking, well, why don't I just do it the way that this paradigm works? And it's like, you're right. It's just much quicker. It's just much easier, to the extent that now, even though I'm running Mint on this box, which I love, and it's whatever, I still installed Albert so that I can, do the same kind of thing, quick shortcut, type what I want, find what I need, rather than, go, which menu is it? Which one is it? That one? Is it that one? Is it this one? Is it that one? Or is it maybe it's in this folder, maybe it's in that. And you just kind of like, after some, I often wonder whether I've got ADHD. I really do, right? Or I'm just impatient, or a bit of both. And it's just like sometimes I just need to get shit done.
You might just be a little busy as a human being, as a
Yeah.
middle-aged male, and you've got very little tolerance for all of the intermediary shit that.
But I wanna back up for just a minute, and Eric, can you say again what you said? Because it was basically when you take your hands off the keyboard, right? Like, that's wrong.
No, it's not. I'm not saying wrong. I'm
No,
not saying
okay,
it's wrong.
all right, sure. You're not
Yeah,
I'm
saying
saying
wrong,
that it's
but,
slow. I'm saying
It's
that it's
slow.
slow, and it is
But-
definitely slower if you have a workflow.
but that
That's
is the type of attitude that people that use VI have.
Yeah.
VI and Vim, right? Like, if you have to take your hands off the keyboard, then you're inefficient and you shouldn't, and that's why Nano is bad.
But I mean, think about it this way. If I want to launch an application with my mouse, I have to go to the menu. I have
Making
to
my
find
point.
the application. I have to click it. And that is like all these extra steps, especially if I didn't already have my hand on the mouse. If I already have my hand on the keyboard, I hit Control Space or Alt Space, and then I just start typing. And it's there. I hit Enter. And then I just keep doing what I was doing. That's what I'm saying. Like, yes, if you have a graphics heavy, shell and you're using a lot of floating windows and stuff like that, then yes, the mouse might be more.
No,
if
you
you're,
use a tiling window manager, man.
Well, no, I'm not that hardcore. I'm just saying, for me, it's surprising whenever I find out that people don't understand even Control C, Control V. And I'm not
Yeah.
joking. People do
Yeah.
not even understand
Yeah.
cut and paste.
But
Yeah.
After that,
my point on all that, though, is where would they have learned that?
Well, they would have learned it if they have taken a course in, like I did,
But nobody
in
does.
word processing.
Well, of course, and we're all old and we all
Word
can type at
processing.
100 words a minute. But
Right.
where else would they have learned that?
Yeah.
So
I'm not saying that they had the knowledge spoon fed to them.
they're
But
not they're not lesser than or anything like that. I'm just saying that, like, so many people use computers because one was put in front of them with absolutely zero training. And I meet these people every day. This is why I like to take that particular side, because I see it every
Don't
day.
you feel like
And
if you show them a shortcut like that and they go, "Oh my God, I didn't know I could do that,"
The
and
people
all of
that
a sudden
care,
their whole life changes.
the people
What else
that
can I
care,
do?
that actually
know?
want to be efficient, that actually want to learn what's going on in the background, those people eat it up. They love it.
Oh, what if someone uses Word all day, every day, making documents, and they never understood that there was such a thing as Control C, Control V? Could you
Yeah,
imagine
when you see people,
continually doing that with your mouse?
You
Yeah.
have, like, you just have to meet enough people that shrug their shoulders and keep doing it the other way. Like, to know that there are people that
being
do not
willfully
care.
ignorant or choosing to do it a certain way is perfectly fine. If you're comfortable doing it a certain way, that's great. Not having the knowledge to know you have a choice is the thing that I always tried to do whenever I was in, especially desktop support.
unknowns. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you're right. There were a lot of people who just were like, I don't care. Those are the same people
Yeah.
eating a sandwich over their keyboard, but whatever. It's exactly. Yeah, I called a guy. I had a guy I called Joe Dirt because he would eat in his office and his keyboard was like, I didn't want to touch it when I'd go in his office. Anyway,
I'd bring my own.
Yeah, the point being that, like, showing someone that there's a better way to do it, at least what I consider a better way, gives them then a choice. They can either continue to do it the way that they would do, or they go, wow, that's going to save me a shit ton of time. Thank you for showing that to me. And those were the times where it was like, okay, good. That was worth me. But there were plenty of times when someone would just go, I don't care.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I show it. I show whatever I'm trying to show to anybody, even if I know you're gonna shrug it off. I'll show it to you anyway, just because
Yeah, I'm
you
gonna
should
sound
know
like
it. But
I'm gonna sound
Yeah.
like a right arrogant bastard now. But do you, sometimes when you see
Finally.
normies using computers and then the things that some of them do, and you just
Normies.
sit there and you're like, I'm dying inside.
But
Like,
listen to me.
like someone, why isn't this saving? Why isn't this? I'm keep pressing the button that says save. This, that, and you're
But
just like, oh, please, just
what
stop. Make it
we
stop, please.
what we in our ivory computer tower do, though, is we look at that and say, ugh, how silly. They don't know the
good
way.
to be
And sure,
king.
we might teach them the way. But the thing is, what they were doing was the intuitive way to do that thing. And so we should be encouraging people to continue to do that by adding that as a workflow, by creating a path for them to actually get their work done the way they were trying to do it, because that was intuitive for them. And it makes sense. And it might make sense to a whole lot more people.
Yeah,
Than
true.
Well,
we do.
yeah. I mean, you don't
But
teach.
then just taking a step back, though, like we were just saying that most people are very busy, right? It's
Right.
hard enough. It's hard enough keeping yourself on top of the work and the things that you have to do. Adding on the responsibility of then kind of, well, I'm going to help other people do the shit that they do. I mean, it's a bit of an ask, isn't it?
Yes, and okay, so oh, I love it. You're leading me right into my point. This goes straight into cybersecurity and the bullshit we ask people to do. Like,
Oh, yeah.
we're already past the point where anybody can actually reasonably look at one of these emails and be like, that's definitely spam. We are past the point. And so these stupid little training sessions that we do, these are the types of things you need to be on the lookout for. Nope, we're way past it. The stuff is way too sophisticated. It's going to get you every single time. And we should be doing now what we should have been doing 15 years ago, which is fixing it on the IT end.
Right.
We should be implementing the solutions that don't even ask the end user to think about the security of this or whatever. We should make it impossible to do whatever it is insecurely. Will that hurt
Yeah.
some? Yeah, but that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
My
I mean,
fear of
actually,
that,
that's
though,
a good point.
my
I
fear
was
of
just gonna
that,
say
though,
that
is you the more that you remove to where they never have to think about touching it, the more you run the danger of when it does get past you and they're not used to having to make that decision.
It's already
going
going to happen. It's
And they're not
already
gonna fix it,
happening
though.
now.
So
there-
this is
you know-
one of the this sounds like one of the kind of conversations that we often have at medical conferences, where somebody will have one way of doing something and then there'll be a new way invented and then there'll be a debate on, this should now become the standard. I'll give an example. When you intubate, that is putting a tube into someone's trachea to get them onto a ventilator. You can do it manually, with
I
a
hope you're
with the laryngoscope, or you can use a video laryngoscope, which has a little camera at the end. So you put it in, and you can see where you are, and you can just put the damn thing in, right? And this technology has been around for about 15, 20 years, easily 20 years, right? And, anesthesiologists, we'll all sit and talk about, direct is better, or video is better. And there'll always be some smart ass will say, well, now that, we're, yeah, back in my day, exactly. We used to do it this way, and if you all learn the new way of doing it, then nobody's ever going to learn the old way of doing it. And then what do you do when the camera breaks and you have to do it the manual way and this, that, and the other? And you're kind of like, sure, I could warm my house with a fire. That I could do that, but maybe my gas central heating is a better way of warming my house and less of a fire hazard. Do you know what I mean? So there is a bit of the kind of some people
Elitism.
want elitism but in both ways. Elitism in the way of saying, we have to stick to the old way of doing things because the old way of doing things, it was fine in my day, and just because you young pups can't manage it doesn't mean we have to change everything. Well, wouldn't you want to do the safest thing for the patient that you've got? Wouldn't you want to do the safest thing for the consumer? In your case, you're talking about cybersecurity, right? So therefore, if you're, you know, I just think of it. I mean, maybe this is a defensive way of looking at it. I just think of it like if you were switching it around the other way and something had gone wrong and you had to explain yourself, right? So, yes, I knew that the video laryngoscope was there and I knew that this patient was going to be a challenge, but I wanted to keep up my skills. And so I decided to use an old method of doing this. Oh, and sorry, a patient died. I have a feeling a judge is not going to look very kindly to me if I say something like that. So similarly, yes, you're right. People should have a lot more knowledge about cybersecurity. They should know what they're doing and this, that, and the other. But if you make it really, really difficult to fuck it up, then surely that's a good thing.
The argument against that is always, oh, they'll build a better idiot. Well, okay, deal with that
That,
person.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Deal with that when that happens.
The
yeah.
other truth is, in a lot of a high percentage of especially the high profile breaches, it's almost always social engineering.
Every
Right.
time.
Technology is already very strong in terms of the application of security, the need for a password or bio, or you know what I mean. Those things exist and they're well thought out to a point in that it's either what ease of use versus security and blah blah blah. And the truth is that a lot of times it comes down to social engineering. They find the right person, the weakest link, the easiest manipulated person, and they are able to gain, access that way. And
Mm.
you can't really, that's where those annoying courses come in, right? Where they're like, you have to, go to the training session to learn how to not be catfished or whatever. But like
Right.
the point being, like, we can make technology as solid as we possibly could, and there will always be some ways around it. And we just have to accept that that's the fact. My wife yesterday was, oh, here's another security breach where it was 148 million passwords. I'm like, yeah, they're not getting smaller. They're just going to keep getting bigger and bigger, It's
Yep.
And what do you do about it? Well, you accept the fact that the risk exists. You try to compartmentalize it as best you can. We know better than most other people, so hopefully we can be there to help the people around us make better choices. And the rest of the people have to rely on Apple or Android or whoever making the choices they can to keep people safe. I mean,
Yeah, but I mean, if look at a password breach specifically, right? Like, what is the defense against that does not burden the user at all? I mean, sure, it might ask the user to log in a different way, but as far as you're making your own security decision, how do you do that?
the
You
time for
remove.
passwords. Yeah.
Right.
Go
Yeah,
ahead, go ahead.
you're going exactly where I'm going, which
Yep.
is remove the thing that
Yep.
these companies are storing because they cannot keep a secret. So
Nope.
do not let them. Just don't let them have the secrets at all.
Yep.
And
Or
what is
make
that?
everything, ethereal, where there was like it's a one-time use or you know what I mean? Like you have a system in place that it's some way to validate authenticate you as being you, whatever factors that takes with biometric or location or whatever it is that makes it harder, not impossible, because impossible doesn't exist, harder for someone to, spoof you, to, impersonate you. And then try your best to guide people, like you're saying. People go towards the defaults, they go towards intuition. If you make it difficult for them, they're going to make the wrong choice.
Yep.
So make it as easy as you can to make the right choice. And outside of that, you just can't account for every possibility.
Yeah, you don't
know?
let them make the wrong choice. Like you don't even offer that as an option.
You really
So-
try not to. Exactly.
Right.
That's
I
why I
mean-
appreciate things like Android. If you know better and you want to enable administrative options, administrative tools, you can. You can go in and turn on USB tethering and all this other stuff that, by default is not enabled and is not easy to find to know how to do unless you read an article somewhere. You know what I mean? Unless you cared enough to go find the answer. But once you have unlocked that, then you can do all kinds of different things that if you know what you're doing, make it a more powerful device. That's why I like Android. It's one of the things
Well,
I've always
this is-
appreciated about it.
But this is also why people that root their devices are mad that they can't get into their bank now, right? Like,
Mm.
but
Right.
this, I mean, that's kind of a tangent. I'd love to go down that road, but the idea is we have that solution, at least for password breaches. We have it. It's in our hands right now. Every phone
Yep.
that's not rooted and ROMed has the ability, and maybe the rooted and ROMed ones too, to store passkeys. And
Yeah.
that right there ties your device to your account so that no other device, you can't spoof that. Good luck. And
Yeah,
when you
exactly.
can, we need to move on to something better. But
The problem
right
with that
now,
is
passkeys is
trying
it.
to get adoption across the board, right? You're always going to have, the fact that you can spoof a IEMI, code for a phone or a SIM card or whatever, and the most, widely used two-factor authentication right now is a text message.
Yeah.
And they've advised against that for years now, saying that's a terrible idea. Yet every bank, every financial institution, medical institution, every institution thinks, well, that's just the easiest way,
But
right?
it
It's the
is.
most. It is, but it doesn't preclude doing something better as long as it's
Right.
less impactful to the user. And I agree with you. If we were to take passkeys as a solution and extend that out to everywhere and make it seamless to use that technology with everyone, I just, that's the problem. We have great solutions that are not adopted universally. And whenever they're not the universal solution, there's always a way for someone else to break through that and get in, using that old switch that's still on, or that one, password that was weak from an administrative account, or whatever that thing is, they're going to find it.
Yeah.
I mean, it amazes me. I stand up a server, and within 2 minutes, I mean, maybe even less than that, there
Oh,
are
yeah.
already things scanning.
It's
It takes
automated.
no time at all.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's automated. It's just that it took that long for the automation to wrap back around and hit your IP. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
It was just an automated thing. But the funny thing is that it's not the adoption on the user side, though. This is the terrible part, that we're blaming the user for all of this stuff, and it's not even the user's fault. The adoption is there on the user side, both Android and iOS, which is pretty much the entire thing. But Microsoft supports it too, so you don't even have that excuse. All support passkeys at a system level. They all do. It's there. It's the websites, it's the companies, it's those companies that do not want to put the effort and the money into to swapping over to something that is demonstrably better and reduces their risk. If there are no passwords to steal, then there is no they still got in or whatever, but there was nothing to steal.
Right.
Great. There's no apology.
Exactly. What are you going to take? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then again, burdening the user with, well, now you got to change your password, and now you got to change your two-factor token. Now you got to.
And by the way,
stop doing that.
when you change your password, you have to have 2 special characters, and you have to have 2 numbers, and you have to have 2 uppercase and 2 lowercase, and no one's, you know what I mean? This is why Password Manager works so well for people who understand how to use them, but no one uses them.
That's my favorite thing. Yeah. That's my favorite thing about passwords, though, is that, like, no one's, like, breaking the encryption or brute forcing your password anymore, such that an @ symbol is gonna save your.
Right.
I'm not the low hanging fruit. Nobody cares about that. They steal the passwords because they were sitting there in plain text, or they attack the entire database.
Yep.
And when they figure out the encryption, your @ symbol doesn't help you at all.
And see, this is the type of situation where I really think government has a part to play in defining acceptable standards. I mean, it's shameful to me that this country still allows data brokers and companies like that to just basically stockpile all this information on people and just basically sell it to the highest bidder. And it's kind of a sick feeling, right? You just know that no matter how hard you work to try to keep yourself safe and, keep yourself as safe as you can, at least, that someone could just go with enough money, and it isn't even that expensive, really, to go find out all the pertinent information they need about you to go to a company, open a new bank account, get a credit card. I mean, hell, they could do anything they want to do, basically, because everything we're doing is online. There's no personal connection anymore. No one's looking at you to see if you actually match your identification. I mean, it's just too easy. And
I do
the
the ID
only
check
way to
myself.
change that.
I do
Go
the
ahead.
ID check myself. I only shop at places that allow Apple Pay. So,
Okay.
like, I don't need to bring
I
out an
like
ID.
using my phone for
I do too.
payment. I
It's
really
so
do.
good, and it's faster, and I
Yep.
don't have to fiddle with my wallet. It's
Oh,
great.
yeah.
Like, so,
Yep.
like, the ID check is built into the phone.
Yep.
right? And I trust my phone to say yes, it's your face more than a teenager looking at a license with a black and white only photo. Why does Texas do that? But it's and be like, yeah, that's you.
Indiana does
Obviously,
too.
Wait,
you can
Texas
now.
is black and white?
It's weird, dude. Yeah,
Indiana
and
is
Oh
like,
my goodness.
and then yeah, you're allowed to tap your card that has no any real
Oh, that
security in it.
kills me. That kills me. How easy could
So-
you make it? You know?
Right. And so to be slightly more secure in my everyday, I just if you don't do Apple Pay or whatever, I just make my wife pay.
Yeah. I just use Google Pay. I mean, the Google
Wife
equivalent on
pay.
Android. So.
That should be
Yeah,
a thing.
yeah,
Wife
yeah.
pay.
That's what I tap my wife and then she pays, and that's how that works.
Oh goodness. So let me round back to where we started. So Majid, do you like the Surface Pro 7 in
Yes.
terms of device?
Yeah, it's a nice device. It's got I pretty easily managed to get the Linux Surface kernel, which fixed any kind of I mean, like initially when you first I put on Fedora in the end. It does
Oh, interesting.
yeah, it doesn't do. Okay, well, so okay, right, fine. So at first I started with Kubuntu, just because I hadn't used a KDE desktop for a bit, and then I did, and then remembered why that actually maybe on a device like this, probably GNOME would make more sense. And so then now I'd heard from a video, the Linux experiment video, that Ubuntu GNOME breaks some things when you're using it as a touch screen. The extensions that Ubuntu adds. To the extent that when he first did the video on which Linux is best for touchscreens, he actually said that KDE was better than GNOME. And then he got a lot of people. Yeah, I know exactly. Then he got a lot of people saying, wait a minute, have you tried vanilla GNOME on Fedora? And then he tried it, and then actually, to his credit, put up a follow-up video like the next day saying, yeah, I think it was some of the extensions that Canonical have put into Ubuntu that have broken the like, for example, the fact that you couldn't hold on to the Files app and just move it across. These kinds of little things.
okay.
Or like in Firefox, when you wanted to scroll, it would just select rather than scroll. And so it must be some weird extension, whatever. So, and so as I said, he did a follow-up video where he put Fedora with vanilla GNOME, and he's like, yeah, this is just much better. This just works so much better. So anywho, then I decided I'd put Fedora on, and then because Surfaces are Microsoft and they have their own quirks and whatever, you have to get a specific Linux Surface kernel, which sounded a little bit scary to me as someone who doesn't generally go around changing kernels, but actually was just not a problem because they've got a guide, and he's just kind of like, yeah, cut and paste these commands, put these in, and then reboot. You reboot the machine, and then voila, it works.
Was it like a repository somewhere that you
Yeah,
added?
yeah. So it was a repository, and then it was a slightly modded 6.14 was it? I think kernel.
Okay.
Can't remember. And all of this, so the wiping the machine, putting Fedora onto it, and then putting the Linux Surface kernel onto it took all of about 20 minutes altogether. So it really was not a difficult procedure to do at all.
So have you been using it like the 2-in-1 convertible that it is, where you basically rip the keyboard off or flip it back or whatever it is?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been using it so far mainly as a laptop. I mean, I've got the keyboard cover, I've got a active stylus which works as well. With the thing. It's not the official Microsoft pen, but who's going to pay that? I think it came about £10 or something like that.
The Apple one's worth it though.
Yeah, the Apple Pencil. You know what? I remember having an Apple Pencil on an iPad, and like, you know what? I prefer this the Galaxy S Tab S pens or Note 10 pens. But anyway, that's separate. That's a secondary point. Anyway, so I then and I was able to kind of there's an app external something like that.
Cernal.
Plus. Yeah, that's it. And I was able to do any writing I wanted to with that. But yeah, honestly speaking, I have been using it more mainly as a laptop and less as a tablet. mainly because, and this is not a specific problem to this device, it's a problem I've noticed many, many times on many, many other things. Standby time on Linux just isn't great. You know, I mean, and even to the extent of, I remember Popey, when he was on last year, bloody hell, last year, when he was talking about how he was running Asahi Linux on his M1 Mac. He said that, you know, the battery life is fantastic. It's brilliant, and you know, he was always very effusive about it and how good it was. But the standby time, it would just always drain when it's just sat there.
Yep.
And yes, you could call it a niche thing, but I really do need standby time to be decent, because there are going to be days when I'm not at work or I'm not using my device. Do you know what I mean? Because I mean, a lot of these things are very portable, aren't they? So the idea is that you're using it out and about. And if you're using it out and about, and you've charged it a couple of days ago, you put it in your bag, and then you've take it out and it's on 10%, and you're kind of like, oh, fine.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
What about the idea of letting it so when you know you're going to be using it again soon, you're just closing the lid and it's going into like a sleep or a standby, but then having the option of doing like a hibernate or something that's like, you know, you're going to be done using it. So you choose to go up to the menu, you say hibernate, and then next time it's okay.
I mean, I'm against that, because why do I need to have forethought about this?
Yeah.
Like,
That's
I just
fair.
want to be able to close my laptop and not know when I'm going to open it up again.
It was
And
very much a devil's advocate question.
I know. And
Yeah.
and I tend to be the devil on a lot of these, because I want
Yeah.
the best of the best, and I don't really care how I get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I can charge my laptop, my MacBook Pro, right, like up to 90% or whatever, and then unplug it, play with it for a little bit, it's 85%, close the lid, and then 3 days later I open it back up and it's at 83%, and I'm like, great, and
Yeah.
I can just keep using it.
So is it keeping low power? It's still keeping the RAM powered
Yep.
during that time.
When I
So-
open it up, it is exactly the way that it was when I closed it down.
Okay, so
I don't
that's
close apps.
that's
I don't do that. You know, I don't play around unless something's misbehaving. I don't force close anything.
So I
That's the
found
thing
that
that I
on the I found that on the Snapdragon laptops, it's very much like that. As I said, I need to do a bit more testing with the Ubuntu partition that's on there. And it's, as I said, it's difficult to tell because the battery indicator doesn't work. So I have no idea how much it's drained in the, 2 days I've left it in my bag or whatever. But I find, as I said, like a lot of these things, it's about use case, isn't it? And it's about what you're using it for, what you're doing with it, etc., etc. And if you are someone like me who uses their laptop in short bursts, short intensive bursts, as it were. So like yesterday, there was a delay for before we could start the first general anesthetic case, and so I was like, okay, well, if I'm sat here, I'm going to do some work, and I sat and doing some guidelines on perioperative pediatric stuff, and for 2 hours I was just doing that, and then okay, fine, we can do the case now. Okay, fine, I'm gone. And then that laptop hasn't been opened since then till this afternoon. Do you know what I mean? So for me, that kind standby time is important. It's probably more important than the length in general. Because how often am I actually going to be sat there for 20 hours?
That's true.
Playing local
But
video.
what is the
playback.
battery life on the Pro 7?
So the battery life on the Pro 7, I mean, bearing in mind that it's a used device, it's technically 5 years old. So obviously
I have a Latitude that's very similar to that.
Yeah. If I've got it off the charge and I'm actually sat and working on it, probably about 4 hours, I would have thought.
Yeah, I'm around 3 to 5 depending on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it's a Latitude 5290, I think it is, and it's a shameless ripoff of a Surface Pro. I don't know how Dell got away with it because it is literally exactly a Surface Pro.
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember having a Lenovo tablet as well, the one that I gave to my son, which he then broke, which really annoyed me because it was a good one.
But it's interesting you're using it as a laptop because I agree. Like as a laptop, it is way better than I ever expected it to be. I like the keyboard cover. I like having the touch screen. I like a lot about it.
Yeah.
I
And
like having
and
fractional scaling on GNOME, or because I can
yes, yeah.
have it be 150 if I'm doing something where I need to read a lot, and it's 125 if I'm doing a lot with applications. And there's just very little I don't like about it. But you're right, standby time is an absolute. It's ridiculous. Like if I'm lucky, I'll get a day.
Mhm.
And
And
that's like you said, opening it up and having 15% left. It's
yeah,
just like
and
shit.
so it did actually occur to me this question of, well, why not actually just use it as a tablet, And so I was like, okay, fine, let's watch a bit of media.
Doesn't last
Fedora
very
and
long.
media.
Yeah, they don't mix.
But
I
even
discovered this. The way around it, I found, is even though I followed all sorts of random guides from random people on the internet, is just install Flatpak of VLC. If you install the Flatpak of VLC, suddenly everything seems to work. The same VLC, which if it comes from the Fedora repo, even if you go around installing the codecs manually and RPM
interesting.
Fusion this and all that sort of stuff,
It's
I just
RPM
couldn't.
Fusion. It's RPM Fusion, and then install FFmpeg. That is the answer.
Yes,
Like
yeah.
if you want it system wide,
For some
wide.
reason that didn't. For some reason that didn't work. I don't know why. Maybe
You broke it.
probably. I mean, this is
It's
the
your fault.
longest I've ever. This is the longest I've ever been with a Fedora-based distro. So, and that's not a lot. I've only had it for like
Kudos.
3 weeks. Do you know what
They
I mean?
have made
4
it
weeks.
easier to live with, though. They really
Yeah.
have.
But yeah, I found that the easiest way around it was just if I just get VLC, the Flatpak of VLC, because it just included FFmpeg and all the other kind of things within the Flatpak. But the screen is fine. The screen is good. It's not a bad screen at all, but it's not as good as some of the other screens I have. And so therefore, if I want to sit and watch something, I'll sit and watch it on. I still maintain that the OLED panels that Samsung has on its Galaxy tabs are just brilliant. I mean,
Yep.
I don't pay for 4K Netflix or anything like that, but I was watching Netflix earlier today. Well, I was watching. This is going to annoy Eric now. I'm going to talk about TV. I was watching Department Q on Netflix, and it's set in Scotland. It's set in Edinburgh, which is a beautiful city, I must say. And it just looked so good, so good.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know what? I'll watch it on this. I won't watch it on my 55-inch TV. I won't watch it on, this Surface laptop or whatever. But I'll watch. The only other screen that I've got which is comparable is a Lenovo OLED. So the Snapdragon one is the Lenovo OLED, 2K. Yeah. And that screen is also really good. But then Windows doesn't like streaming services, it seems, or for whatever reason, it always wants to downscale the stuff. So like I remember a couple of weeks ago, I was on a conference. I was up in Leeds, and I took my laptop with me, and I wanted to watch Andor, and for reasons I have no idea, Disney would only give me a 720p.
Are you
stream.
using the Windows Store app for Disney?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, gross.
Exactly. It was gross. I felt dirty afterwards. I had to put it away, and I preferred to watch it on my phone after.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, so just going back to your point, Eric, I haven't really used it massively just as a tablet because of those kinds of random limitations. So having said that, I'm going to try again because I haven't watched the Watchmen series and I've heard good stuff about it. I'd watched the film when it came out like 15 years ago. Whatever. I'm not a fan of. I've never been a comic book guy, as in comic books, reading actual comic books. So I don't know. So it's not like I've got anything to compare it to. But I'd heard lots of good reviews about it. So I thought, okay, well, this looks like the kind of thing I could watch on a tablet. Probably don't want to watch it on my 55-inch because if I remember what the Watchmen film was like, it maybe not around children. And so I'm going to try it again and see how it is. But I did notice as well then, even when I did try to watch it, when I finally got VLC to work with all of that, it did drain relatively quickly.
Very quickly.
I have a battery solution for you all.
Okay.
So I was I'm doting on Mac OS for having such a long battery life. But I did get my Linux laptop to have similar battery life in when I wasn't using it, but I have to be very careful about my words there uh, because it wasn't in standby. I found that just fully shutting the laptop down, that was it. And to your point, Majid, I think we were talking about like not knowing. Oh, actually, yeah, Eric, you were talking about like you can choose to do one or choose to do the other depending on how long you think you're going to keep it in your
Yeah.
backpack or whatever. But I just chose to shut it down every single time. And there were times where 3 minutes later, I'm like, I need to. And so I would have to fully boot up the entire laptop to be able to do that. So the across the board solution was to fully shut the laptop down every single time, and you wouldn't get battery drain.
True.
Yeah.
It's not great, but
Yeah, no. I mean, I know this was what I remember a couple of years ago when I had a Asus ZenBook, which ran an Intel thingy. You know, they were marketing as its Evo platform. It would load up in 7 seconds. You know, and to be fair, it did. It was just a pie when it had loaded up. But I mean, it did take 7 seconds to get to the boot screen. I've never found Linux as quick, personally. I'm not saying it's slow. It's not slow. It's not slow.
Yeah.
But that thing, because that happens to me more often than I'd like to care to admit. That you switch it down, put it away, and you go, oh shit, I had to do that as well, didn't I? Go off and get it, open it up again. Do you know what I mean? Which is actually the other funny actually. Remember last time when I was on OTC, which was about a month ago, and in the end I couldn't get my computer to boot up because of some issue to do with the battery. Having bought batteries, they're still in the case here. I still haven't opened it and put it in. Because I found a elegant solution to not having this problem. That is, never switch the box off. If I just leave it by all the time, I never have this problem. Which actually has worked out in the sense of that if I do end up switching something off and putting it away, and then going, oh shit, I need to do that. I'm like, the desktop's open. Just go into that room and do it there. So yeah. Oh god, I sound like such a noob. Oh my lord. I look like the kind of guy that I look like the kind of guy that I'd sit there going, ugh, you do what? Ugh.
Yeah, listen,
don't make him feel better, Eric. Don't do it.
If you no, I was going to say, if you were 20 years younger, I would probably say you're lazy, but I was that person 20 years ago, and now being what I am, I do not want to fight against things. I will take the easiest, laziest solution possible, and if that means
walking 20 steps. Yeah.
Well, no, I think it's just having restricted time, being busy. You just don't have the time. Like, I would sit and troubleshoot the dumbest little thing that meant nothing other than it was a challenge for me to fix it. And I enjoyed the hell out of doing it while I did it. And now it annoys me to no end when something just doesn't work the way I expect it to. And I think that you just get to that point in your life where you're like, I don't have the time to sit here and dick around with this thing to make it work. And if that means blowing it out and reinstalling, or whatever is the fastest way for me to get to where I need to be. And that's the other reason why I don't really want to do Distro Hopper's Digest anymore, is because I don't distro hop anymore, ever. I like what I'm using. I really like Pop OS, especially on this Lenovo or this Latitude, because the touch is perfect, and I like the way that the extensions they have in GNOME, and it just works. So
you need a whole other machine just to do the distro stuff.
Oh yeah. I've learned that as well. Distro hopping has to be done on its own bespoke machine.
The irony is I bought this for that purpose, and now I like it so much. The other thing is my main XPS system, there's something wrong with the wireless card. It's dropping out, and it's really being annoying. I thought it was my Wi-Fi, and I'm like, why does it keep doing this? And so
I thought you were about to say, I thought it was my wife, but okay.
No. Like last week, it was either a week or two ago, because I had changed my whole Wi-Fi system, and I realized, I'm like, no, it can't be the Wi-Fi. So I just on a whim pulled this out and started using it, and realized, oh no, it's perfectly fine. It must be something with the wireless card in that system. So I have to troubleshoot that. But again, it's like, it's easier to just use this one. So who knows when I'll actually fix the other one.
Your picture and video and everything's been a bit more reliable this time around. than it
Yeah,
was last
I haven't
time,
had
so.
any of that. None. None rubber banding, no dropouts, nothing. So it's got to be the Wi-Fi card on that other system. So
Yay, Pop OS.
Yeah, and ironically,
no,
before
that system has Pop OS too.
it did occur to me when I was doing the going over to Fedora. I said, I could always try Garuda. The Joe keeps telling me about Garuda. Or maybe I could do
Well,
Garuda.
you mentioned
No.
7-second boot ups. If you
Yeah.
want super fast, CachyOS is an
Okay.
optimized version of Arch, and
Okay.
yeah, it is stupid fast for stuff like that. They've
Okay.
optimized. They have a optimized version of Firefox. They've put most of their effort into streamlining, because generalized kernels have support for things that 99% of people will never use. And it's kind of stupid to say that, but generalizing it also makes it, obviously less specific. But I mean, also, they're trying to encompass so many different systems, pieces of hardware and all of that, that Cashy basically said, what is the most likely scenario in terms of what we need to support in the kernel. And yeah, just by cutting out a lot of that stuff, it's crazy fast.
So are they using the
so if you
Zen
wanna-
kernel then, or they
Yeah.
got their own thing? Okay.
I think, good question.
I mean, Zen is still general.
Yeah.
It is, but it's just less general, I guess. Is the best way to say
It's got different optimizations. It chooses different things to prioritize, and then it compiles against that. But it's still a general kernel because they don't know what you're going to install it on, so it's got to support everything.
Yeah.
So have you used CachyOS then?
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah. Which
It's Arch,
yeah.
but they have their own. Just like with all these Arch derivatives, they use mostly Arch packages, but they have their own repository of things. Like in this case, kernel, and then some of their own tools, their own version of Firefox, things like that. And yeah, I mean, it's basically all Arch is already pretty fast, right? And compared to something like Ubuntu.
No.
Okay.
Well,
They use the
for
same.
me-
That's a hot take. That's a hot take, isn't
Wait,
it?
wait. So you're being unfair in that Ubuntu loads up a whole lot more stuff by default. So saying Arch is faster would mean that if you loaded up the exact same things that Ubuntu is loading up on an Arch system, it would still be faster, and I don't think that's true.
Okay, Mr. Pedantic.
I'm
Anyway.
gonna be.
Fair, to be fair,
No,
that is a fair point, actually. Yeah,
It is, and it is true. And again, it goes back to the generalist nature of Ubuntu. You would probably have issues with CachyOS on some specific hardware, but for I think most mainstream systems, it's going to be fine. But yeah, I mean that's the beauty of Linux, right? If you have an itch, there's something out there to scratch it. And if you want a super fast system, in my opinion, Cashy has been the fastest one I've ever seen, where it's literally built to be that way, from the ground up. I mean, literally their website is blazingly fast and customizable. That's
yeah. I've just gone on there. Yeah.
Yeah. So
you're
anyway,
free to slow it down however you want.
yeah, no kidding.
By adding on customizations and the stuff that you actually like.
that's true
Yeah,
though,
so it
because
says-
when I install regular Arch, I mean, it just flies. Because the thing about
You use Arch, do you?
I do, and
Oh, really?
when
Never
you're-
knew that.
the difference is, you don't have anything in the init RAM image except for what you need to start the hardware you've got, and that speeds up things a little bit. But also, you just don't have the things installed that you don't need, because picking out
The services and all that. Yeah.
and so it's just not going through near as many things on. It's got fewer things on the checklist, to go through. But when you've been running it, it seems to me, if I had to put my Arch laptop next to this machine running Mint, and this machine's had this version of Mint on it for about a year. That laptop's had that install of Arch on it for about 5 years now. This one would just blow it away. The
Linux Mint one would blow it away?
The Mint one would blow it away, startup time, just because of...
Why? Oh, hold on. Okay. Why?
I don't know. I haven't taken the time to really investigate what's slowing it down because
Hardware, maybe?
I've got Plymouth installed on it, so I don't see any startup messages like you would get by default with Arch. So I don't
Just
know.
the splash screen.
Yeah, I'm just getting.
Yeah, but you can hit escape, can't you? Like
Yeah,
during the
can.
little splash
I
screen, you can
just-
hit escape and see it.
I just haven't been bothered, honestly, because I'll usually hit the start, and then I'll go do. Well, I get the what do you call it? The Lux password prompt, which is built into Plymouth, by the way. If you're running Plymouth, you get the Lux prompt right there instead of just the ugly way. But then I just
See-
ignore it while it's starting up. So
Y'all said I had the hot take. Bill doesn't just have a hot take. He's got hardware and software boot up times to prove
yeah,
that once you tinker with Arch enough, it's trash like
yeah,
everything else.
you can build up cruft on any system, no matter how
Oh,
optimized it is. You know?
absolutely. And Arch gives you all the tools you need to make it worse. That's basically
Oh
the
yeah,
truth. I mean,
that's a good way to put it because
Yeah.
another thing,
Arch gives you enough bullets to put in the gun to shoot.
gives you all the
yourself
rope
in
you
the
need
head.
to hang
Totally
yourself
true.
because
guns, yeah.
it's Arch's.
Yeah, we're Americans. You're Americans. You need to be. You talk about guns all the time, don't you? All that sort
That's
of
right.
stuff, shooting,
Right,
that
yeah.
sort of thing.
always.
and
What do
target.
y'all talk
Target
about?
is where we go
Unexploded
to shoot them.
ordnance?
Yeah.
Yeah. what do I? Well, I'm actually trying to just randomly, just to end on because we have to end on a humorous note. I'm starting a thing now for the live stream users, or viewers or whatever
On TikTok
Now,
only.
Yeah, well, no, just that whenever I'm doing any of these OTCs or even Mincast Roundtable, I'm going to try and wear a different sports shirt every single time. So
Okay.
this one is a classic, a 1994-1995 Manchester United away shirt in the years when we were actually good.
Yeah.
Not like the years now where we are terrible in every single way, shape, or form.
These
So
things come and go.
Yeah. Real Madrid, you got a few of those?
Now I haven't got Real, but that's on the list. I've got an Inter Milan one, which is going to be useful because it's the Champions League final tonight, and it's Inter Milan versus Paris Saint-Germain, and I don't like Paris at all. So Inter Milan is who I'm going to be rooting for. But annoyingly, they're wearing their I'm a real football kit nerd. They're wearing their away kit, which is not their usual blue and black stripes, but bright yellow. Yeah.
Get yourself an Inter Miami one.
You know what? I'd be half tempted to get into Miami.
Dude, they're
one,
pink.
because
They're kind of cool.
Which
So
one's
you've
the
got
one
a
that
collection
Beckham
of them
played
then.
for? Oh yeah, I've got about. I think the last time I checked, I've got about 35 separate different tops of not just football, cricket, and rugby, and this is what I'm going to do now. This is my thing now. I'm going to be on a different one every single time you see me.
And he's going to trick you too. He's going to come in and we're going to be like, wait a minute, didn't you wear that one last time? He's going to be like, boom, took it off, and there's another one underneath.
Yeah.
Don't do it on Mintcast, not yet. Because I'm trying to
take my top off. I don't think so. I know we've got.
Because it'll turn into a whole nother section that we add to the show notes so that you can talk about your
Magic's tits.
yeah.
Hey man,
I feel you, man.
there's a buyer for everything out there, buddy.
Well, yeah, fair point. There is.
On that
hold on, Majid, bring your feet up to the camera real quick.
Oh, stop.
How am I gonna? What? Oh God. Anywho.
Anyway, kids, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Until then, I'm Bill.
I'm Eric.
I'm a Man United fan. Cool, Majid.
Leo. I've been Leo.
Oh, I was going to stop doing it, but now I might not.
No, don't, please,
No,
It was the last call. That was it.
Nope.
All right,
We continue
kids.
to be the people we are.
That's right. We'll see you next time, folks. Thank everybody in the live stream. That was pretty good conversation going on in there.
Was there? I wasn't looking.
Yeah, there actually was. I just
okay.
looked in the last 5 minutes.
Oh,
Was
we
like,
have people down there?
Oh,
yeah.
I should pay attention now.
Yeah, we're a thing.
I didn't even think of it.
People obviously like to listen to our witterings. I mean, who would have thunk
I mean,
it?
hell,
Oh, bloody
it
hell,
wasn't-
yeah.
There were not only 11 people watching, but conversing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Uh,
Hey,
about-
Dave. Look at me. I'm awake. Okay.
Oh, that's way
These are all
up
your
there.
3 fat trucker mates, aren't they? Your real friends.
Dave was in there in the beginning for some reason. He does listen to these shows, and I got to hand it to him. If I didn't have him, we wouldn't be where we are, because he, all week long, he's calling up these other syndicated shows, and he calls himself Dave from Three Fat Truckers, and he'll plug the show, and so
that's what I'm not good at. I need someone like that. To reach out to people and do the social facing stuff.
And that's what he does. And he's learned how to make TikToks. He makes some fantastic TikToks and it's so outside of his character, or you would think, but he's got CapCut. He paid for some tool called Opus Clip, which uses some AI to take your video podcast, and it takes clips out of it to make TikToks with, and it'll do all the zooming in on the person that's talking, and then create the clip, and then you can upload it and make a little TikTok out of it, and it's
I did still. I mean, for all the, I want to make it easy on myself as possible. I do still use a very open source stack for absolutely everything that I do. I mean, I edit on Linux, I edit with Kdenlive, I use GIMP to do thumbnails and stuff like that. So it really does kind of hamstring the show in terms of content like that. Like, I mean, the workflow to get it to a 9:16 situation is not really that difficult in Kdenlive, but you don't get those stupid little bouncy captions, and you don't get the zooming and the shaking and the moving and the whatever.
Well, you can, but it's hard to do.
Right. It's not 3 taps like it is in the,
you're
like
doing
keyframing
and all kinds of annoying crap.
Right. You can do it. It is there, but it's not easy to uncover how in the first place, and then turn it into a real workable workflow in the second place. So, it's and I'm considering grabbing Affinity, that software, to do the image editing and logo creation and stuff like that. Because I do have an artistic bone in my body, but and then I've quite honestly considered getting what's the Apple video editor, whatever that is, because I can get it. Yeah.
Just get it for your mom. Get your mom an iPhone. Yeah. Isn't that what it's called?
Because I can get the educational discount. Because I'm a teacher. I can do the teacher thing, and I mean that gets it. For
I would
me
be
almost
abusing that daily. I'm telling
you.
You.
Yeah. I mean, I buy. So I maintain a small fish tank, and there's a pet shop here in town, and they do like a 15% educational discount. So I'm like waving around my thing. I'm like, food doesn't count though. Sad but true.
Yeah. I hate to cut Bill, you guys off. Yeah, we got to get over next door because.
No, I was just gonna say I've just put in the titles thing what I reckon for this one. Nonsense nomenclature.
Say that word again.
Nonsense nomenclature.
Nomenclature. You put that next to the aluminium.
That's nomenclature for the rest of us.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm just taking a piss. Sorry.
Weird words. It's the title. Weird words.
Okay, so it looks like Moss.
With your aluminum.
We're gonna be in trouble.
I mean, here goes.
Good luck, guys. I'll try and watch the live stream on this one. I got.
I bet you will.
And edit. So
yeah,
I'm gonna LOL
Adios.
a couple times.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks.